Okay. And I'm going to turn on my phone. I believe we are live. We are live. We are live. All right. We are live with Heather Wylde, rock star client of mine who has gone from 10 years of spinning around, highly skilled coach, extremely skilled individual, highly talented, but has not been able to fill in the gaps of how to turn it into a profitable business. So today we're celebrating a huge win. Huge win is a first $3,000 sale, paid client, highest sale so far. Clarity, confidence on her niche, and just overall badassery. So Heather has gone from not being clear on what she wanted to do, not having a niche, not having, any idea of how to actually turn her amazing talents and to communicate about it in her marketing and her sales, to now having clarity, having confidence. She now calls herself a sales coach. She has resisted that for a while. So she is a sales coach for eccentric and quirky and highly ethical entrepreneurs who do not fit into the traditional mold. So Heather, I am so excited for you. Congratulations. Thank you so much for being here. How are you feeling?
Oh my gosh. I'm feeling extraordinarily grateful to you, and just grateful to myself for, being open to finally getting the one-to-one help that I needed. And really excited to be working with a dream client who is really fun, who is actually paying ahead on their program. Like,
amazing, so good.
So yeah, I'm feeling really good. This is a dream that I've had for a really long time. And I, we'll get into it as we're talking, but I really despaired of ever seeing it as a reality. And to finally be living it is just wow. It's just so cool.
It's powerful. It's so powerful. One of the first things I want to, ask is, what would you want to tell to the viewers that are watching who have been trying and trying and trying? What would you want to tell them at this point right now, especially with how you're feeling to finally had a breakthrough?
Yeah. So keep trying. I knew from the moment that I started, well, not the moment that I started working with my career coach, but I got introduced to coaching from a career coach. And it became pretty clear within like 2 or 3 sessions that I was destined to be some kind of coach. And I felt that calling, and I was like, this is really cool, But I kept trying over the years, and I knew that I was a good coach, and I knew that I was becoming better, and I was really passionate about it, but I just could not figure out the sales and marketing part of it. And but I kept like, so if you are really called to be a coach or a healer, or some kind of like ethically based service provider, like if you even have an inkling that this is your purpose and your mission, keep going, don't stop. I kept taking breaks. I kept getting frustrated and taking breaks and losing all the momentum that I had. And going off and like doing this, that, and the other thing, and maybe I'll go be a chauffeur. Maybe I'll go do this. And really, what I did is end up wasting a lot of time and a lot of money, because where I was supposed to be was a coach. So don't give up, and get a one-to-one coach. That's what really turned things around for me.
I agree. I agree. And we share some of the journey. I've had similar frustrations, and the story is not uncommon, unfortunately, in the coaching world, because it's not a one size fits all. If it was as easy as taking a sales and marketing course, then we would all be millionaires by now, but it's not as that. So you have gone through all this training and you have coached people before. Can you describe essentially your reality, of the challenge of what was going on over the last 10 years and prior to these last 8 weeks? Like what were you going through emotionally? What were you investing in? Like describe this whole entire path, or in whatever way you want to, whatever you want to mention.
I was squished the last decade of my life into like this little bitty. No,
Okay, well, let's go ahead.
no,
Well,
no, no. I'm not.
as far as like taking this, it's kind of like Buffy refusing her calling, right? And then, you were taking lots of courses. Can you describe, let's start off with your, business reality of what kind of things were you trying to do in order to get yourself off the ground?
So, what happened is I went and I got my training as a coach, which everybody should do. Go invest in some kind of training, learn what coaching is and what coaching isn't, for the love of God. Um, so I did that. And so I knew, how to be a coach, and I was practicing that, and, but I couldn't figure out the business side. And so, in coaching school, they kind of made it sound easy. They're like, oh, just put up some flyers and do some, talks at your local library and you'll have a full business.
People are a little more complex than that.
And I'm not saying that would never work for anybody, but, one of the big things, like I couldn't figure out what I wanted to niche in. And because of my personal background, one of the things I settled on first was sex coaching. And I'm really passionate. I think if the whole world was getting laid and getting laid better, like a lot of the shit that's going on right now wouldn't be happening. People would be too damn happy. I mean, that's fine thing. That's definitely, and I don't mean to come off as insensitive. I just have like a quirky sense of humor. But yes, I'm really passionate about, healthier, sex and better sex. So that was my focus for a little while. I did a podcast, was pretty consistent about that with another sex coach. But we weren't pitching. We didn't know how to make it convert. So we were putting all this, energy into that. And then I, took some time off. And then I was like, I'm gonna take a business course. And so the first thing I took was B School, and really popular, huge, like Marie Forleo thing. And it wasn't the right fit for me. And I didn't figure that out until I'd already bought it, and I didn't take steps to get a refund. So I mean, all that's on me. But it was a little over my head. So I was like, well, damn. But then I'm like watching all these webinars and doing all the freebies, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this and this. And then another 5-day kickoff event came across Facebook, and they was like, oh, we're doing this business training. It's for health coaches, but it applies to all things. And I was just like, by the end, like I got off drugs and alcohol, and then like webinars and like personal development and business development became like my new drug of choice. And so like I would watch a webinar and I'll be like, I'm going to get this free training. And by the end I was like, oh my God, I've got to buy it. It's exactly what I need.
Yeah.
And so I did that course, and there were good things that I learned about it, but like I would always get sucked in by the testimonials, and there's like, oh my God, this person made back their investment and doubled their investment in our course before the course even started, just with the pre-materials that we sent out. And I'd be like, oh my God, I'm really smart. I'm like really smart. I'm really passionate. I'm a really good coach. Like I can totally do that. And then I would go like, spend the money on this course, and, learned a lot from that. But, of everybody that I knew and kept in touch with, I don't know of a single person who actually got those testimonial results, anything close. Most of them didn't even get a client,
Mm-hmm.
So, and, some of that, like it's not having the one-to-one accountability. But actually I did upgrade with that particular training, and I got a coach. And the problem with that was I wanted someone who was a marketing coach, and he was, but he was also supposed to be a transformational coach, because I knew that, and that's very much a part of what I do now, is that it's about strategy and it's about taking real action. But if you're not handling the emotional and spiritual side of things, it's either not going to work or it's going to be a lot harder than it has to. And so I signed up, upgraded, got this guy as my one-to-one coach. First off, he was like, well, I know I'm coaching for their program, but actually I don't believe in doing it like that. So I'm going to take you in a completely different direction. And I was just like, okay.
You're like, this is not confusing at all. Like, yeah.
Totally confused. So he helped me put together this fabulous webinar But their whole thing was about building up, from like really, small. Like their stuff made a lot of sense to me. Anyway, I didn't say anything. I went along for this ride. It didn't work out. And he had no transformational stuff when I hit blocks, and so that was a big problem. And I did a couple more trainings after this, and every training that I did, and I didn't get any results. Like I would make a little bit of progress. I would get a little more clarity. I would learn a little bit more, and I'm a learning junkie. I love to learn, but I still wasn't making any money. And, everybody's like, oh, we don't promise these results, but look at what all these other people did. Right. Mm-hmm. And so every time I was doing one of these courses and I wasn't getting any of the results, I was feeling worse and worse and worse about myself. And I was doubting myself, and I was putting in the work. I was doing webinars. I was doing in-person workshops. I was doing, 5-day challenges. And part of the problem was that I just wasn't sticking with anything long enough to really get traction, because I needed the one-to-one accountability, encouragement, and support. Mm-hmm. So the biggest thing that I could have done was to hire somebody one-to-one. This is what was going through my head. And it'd be interesting to find out if this went through your head too, because I know you did a couple group things before you got one-to-one help as well. Mm-hmm. Only you wised up and did it only after like a year. It took me like 9 years to get my head out of my ass. But basically, if you do one group training and you don't get the results, group programs are not for you. Mm-hmm. Don't waste your money on another group program. Like, go find a coach that you can pay that same amount of money to and get the one-to-one. But what was going on in my head is I was like, oh, but what if I pick the wrong person? And so, but with these big courses, it was these big name gurus. And I'm like, oh, well, if they can afford all this slick marketing and everything, they must be making a lot of money, which means they must know what they're talking about. And so I'd rather spend, $4,000 or $5,000 on this big group program and be connected to this big guru, which are basically getting no one-to-one attention from them, than take a chance on someone who's lesser known. And so that really stood in my way for a really, really long time. And it just, like I said, just like it's people I could have helped. It's money that I lost, money that I didn't make. I've got a $30,000 car that I love, but I don't need I don't need this particular $30,000 car unless I'm driving limos. And I jumped into that business. I don't like driving limos. Yeah. So, yeah, like having one-to-one help, that's what really, really turned it around.
I agree. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And I think a lot of people can relate. There's a bunch of hearts right now and a bunch of likes. I think a lot of people can relate, of being scared of investments, being scared, like, is this actually going to work for me? A lot of people have unfortunately been done wrong in the industry, and we have fallen prey to unethical marketing, and yeah, I feel like a lot of people can definitely relate to your story. So I appreciate you sharing that. What kind of solutions were you finally starting to look for when you got fed up with it, and when the Buffy calling kept knocking on your door and you realized, what, like, I can't be driving a limo for the rest of my life? Like, what kind of solutions did you start looking for? And I also wanted to ask what has made you reach out to me?
So called to be a coach, kept like trying, not succeeding, running away from it for a little while, licking my wounds, and then being drawn back to it. And I got cancer. And while I was going through treatment, I did the last group program that I've invested in, and but then still didn't get where I wanted to be. And so I ended up, going into like my limo chauffeur thing. And I was like, you know what, this is great. This is better than the office job that I had, but I'm still not happy. And, just like, I'm like, Heather, you can keep running from this, but you're supposed to be a fucking coach. So what is it going to take? What's it going to take to get you there? And, I was just like, I need one-to-one. That's the only thing I haven't tried. I've tried accountability partners. I've tried getting free coaching from people. That whole thing about, you paying for coaching and paying premium prices and it gets you better results. I used to think that was such a bullshit sales tactic. And now I'm like, no, it's kind of true. It's not kind of true. It is true. So I hadn't tried investing one-to-one. And you and I had met.
Oh my God, yeah, the history of that. We could go into that. Yeah, I want to interject for a second and, just agree here for, like there's that story is also not uncommon where people, don't feel understood. And that whole thing that you said about paying more premium pricing for that accountability, the thing about one-to-one, and I've had a similar experience as well that I can relate with, where I felt like I was not seen or not fully gotten or understood. And that was a big shift as well. And I really appreciate that you mentioned that, because I feel like a lot of people on the live stream can also relate to that, well, I have all these things, but I know enough, I'm brilliant and I can figure it out, and
Right.
that keeps us stuck in the loop as well, of almost like this pride, so I definitely agree. But yeah, let's talk about how you and I met and how did we connect.
So the reason we're laughing, is
Yeah.
that we met in this personal development group sphere of this particular mentor that, like, she was always interesting. But she got really, really extreme even while we were still like in the, in her world. And I spoke with Marina about this particular mentor and, was like, I don't know, but I'm going to, it's interesting. I'm going to give it a shot. And Marina actually, brought me into that world. I brought myself, but that's how we connected at first, was a one-to-one call. And then it was really cool because there was a live event in Chicago and we were both there. So I actually got to meet her.
And
And
hug.
yeah. And
Hug
so
each other.
yeah, we had talked to each other a couple of times one-to-one, video conferencing. So we kind of knew each other. And so, she was kind of my coach into, this world. And really liked her energy. But y'all, Marina was a completely different person a year ago. Completely different person a year ago. As was I. I mean, I'm a completely different person. Seriously, I know this sounds like hype and like bullshit, but I'm a completely different person than I was like 2 months ago.
Yeah.
Just in the way that I show up and everything, but we'll get into that. So yeah, we met at this live event, and then I watched Marina as we both got out of this community that was becoming more and more toxic, and I watched Marina like really going for it in her business, and I saw these changes in the way she was showing up in her power and in her authority, and the stuff that she was saying. I was like, she's really talking about this in a way that nobody else is talking about it, and it makes a lot of sense to me. And that's really key. Like, you want a coach that you can relate to and is going to be able to relate to you, because they can be a great coach and you can be a great student or coachee. But if there's not a good match, it's going to be a lot more difficult for both of you. So that's just kind of a tip. But yeah, I was watching Marina really come into her own, and I was listening to the stuff that she was saying, and finally I was like, I don't know how in the hell I'm going to afford this. I was like, but I've got to talk to her. And we had talked a little bit kind of back and forth, and I had like hemmed and hawed. And so I remember when I reached out to you on Messenger this time, I was just like, well, I mean, what do you think? And you're like, it's this much. You're kind of sick of my bullshit. You're like, you're either in or you're out. We didn't even do a sale.
Yep. Yep. And you were in, and you signed up like on a Sunday too, which I was like, I don't know, I've made sales over the weekend, but I think that was interesting. Yeah. And one thing I wanted to mention too is like about your reality and just the reality of people going through the gamut of you go through strategy schools, and then you find yourself in the extreme case of that, and then you go into the extreme case of personal development because you go down like self-sabotaging loops of what the hell is wrong with me that I can't do this. So then you end up in extreme toxic environments of that bullshit. Like, I'm so glad we're out of it. But yeah, and I definitely agree about personality matches. Like, I don't know if you guys have seen one of my last lives where Heather was on, and we joke and we flirt and we make really funny jokes, and we still, get down to business, and we get things done. And I think that, and I truly do believe that that's what fosters really amazing success for both people, is the ability to have that kind of dynamic. So I'm really, really grateful for you and your fun personality. You're really amazing to work with, and one of the other things about Heather that made it really pleasant for me to just be like, yeah, okay, let's do this, was the fact that anything that I would tell her to do, not tell you what to do, suggest, guide, you would like take it and you would make it tenfold. You would start, like when we were doing sales conversations and sales practice, you started booking sales practice calls with people. I was like, she's an overachiever. So not only does it take a mentor that understands you, but I really have to give it up to you specifically that, you showed up, you did the work, and you took everything that I have given you, and this is what created this for you. So I
Yeah.
really want to make sure that I commend you for that. My next question for you would be like,
And that's true. Like, you can have the best
yeah.
coach in the world, but if you're not willing to show up and do the fucking work, not only in the session, but in between, it doesn't matter, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, a lot of the times too, what you were saying earlier about, charging premium fees, what you gather is the entire person. You get the dynamic, you get the synergy, you get the accountability, you get the energy, you get the love, the encouragement, the friendship for that matter. And this kind of business relationship that's based on trust, that's based on guidance. And we both, you and I, are all about ethical sales and ethical way of doing business. So we share that value, which is awesome. My next question for you, what has been the most profound or impactful aspect of the last 8 weeks of our work together?
A lot. So I'm quirky as fuck, I view the world in a very different way. And, the way that I think, other people aren't able to follow, because I think differently. I don't think I'm better than anybody, but I'm damn sure different. Um, and so, I'm able to like really be myself, with you, and you get like, there's not a lot of over explaining that has to happen when I'm like, I'm thinking about this. Like, you pretty much, you'll ask questions to follow up, but it's not like pulling teeth for you to understand when I'm like, I think I should do this. And you're like, oh, okay, well, blah, 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 blah. So, there's a nice, like, yeah, just like level of understanding. I like to laugh and goof off. I'm serious about stuff. Like, I'm ready to get shit, but if I can't laugh, like, fuck it. Um, your way of explaining things, has just been different. Like, the thing that drew me in was, I caught your live stream where you were talking about, the analogy between like flirting and seduction and like dating, as a marketing metaphor. And I was like, oh, I suck at that stuff. I should.
Like,
I
no
have
wonder
no
I,
skill.
yeah,
I
I
have no,
suck with flirting. I'm either like all or nothing, and that's just the funniest thing. And then you're like, no wonder I suck at marketing. I don't know how to flirt with people.
literally, I want to fuck, let's fuck.
Right? Or you like just stay away from me altogether, and people are like, "Whoa, bro, that's a little much."
That's a whole topic, whole other life. But yeah, so yeah, that's what pulled me in. And then, one of the most, I mean, there's so many things that you've taught me, and there's so many, perspectives that you've helped me to shift. But one of the biggest things that you really called me on, and I'm seeing like how really powerful this is you're like, Heather, you're not in your authority, and this is where I say, like, I'm the same person that I was 2 months ago in a lot of ways. However, I used to have this really bipolar view of like my gifts and skills. And on the one hand, I'm like, I know I'm a good coach. I know I can get somebody to shift in like 5 minutes, like I know I'm a good coach. And then on the other hand, I'm like, but what if you're not? Well, what if you're delusional, And so, I really would go back and forth with myself. And because Marina really called me on it, and she's like, look, you're never going to be able to serve people if you can't sell to them, and you can't sell to them until you're in your power and you're really like in your conviction. And what do you say? Like you know, like you know that you can help this person. And you know, at that point, like, you did some energy work on me, and which was really helpful. And then I did my energy healing process, my power reclamation session on me, and that, you know, really just like calling in all the power that I've been unwilling to accept. Um, has me in a really different place. And so now, you know, like, when it was funny, because when I was practicing these sales calls with people, well, first off, you're like, I'm like, I can't do sales. I'm not a good salesperson. And you're
Is that
like,
your sales coach?
I
Oh my
know.
god.
She's like, but tell me about, you know, being a limo driver. Tell me about some of your other jobs. Like, what kind of sales experience? And you really showed me that I already knew how to do sales. It was, you know, naked sales.
Oh, it's so funny. It's true. It's
That
true.
you really got me to see. And then when I was struggling with it, I was like, well, the people I really want to coach, the people I find really interesting that I really want to coach, are all entrepreneurs. And I'm like, I can't be a business coach. And you're like, all right, let's list out all the business shit, you know. And I was like, well, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, look, stop, here's the Google Doc. So a lot of it was really just you reflecting back, and, like, you know, stopping this, doing a pattern interrupt of the whole, like, bipolar, I'm awesome, I suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, no, you're going to be awesome at sales. And I'm like, no, no, no. And then when I started jumping on those sales calls, it was really uncomfortable, because the second practice sales call I did, the person was like, wait, is this real? And I was like, well, um,
What
if
is
you want it
real?
to be real, it's real. But, like, you know, I'm like, I know I could help you, but, you know, we're just practicing. And, you know, it's weird. It's like, I damn near converted 3 of the people that I did practice calls. And I was like, oh, I guess I kind of am good at sales.
Kind of. You're a badass, Heather. You're such a badass. And it's funny too. I remember like saying you were resistant to doing any kind of business stuff. You know, you were wanting to do more transformational work. And by the way, I appreciate, you know, all the kind words that you said about me and how I've helped facilitate you to this aspect from different angles. And yet again, you took that and you ran with it, and you kind of you found in your own tool bag the things that I have given you that you would extrapolate upon and make a tenfold for yourself. Like, oh, energy work? Wait, I could do energy work on myself, and I could do energy work. You know, like you would just take it and run with it, and it's awesome. But I remember you were resistant to doing sales and business coaching.
Me resistant? What?
You were, yeah, you were quite resistant, and then it's almost like you kind of came around to that, and it was like it was really cool to see. It was really cool to see that realization of like, oh my god, I'm a badass, you know. And I feel like that's the most rewarding thing for me, and I feel like that's been the most impactful thing for me on my end, is to see you come into that. Because, you know, as you and I both know, people are a lot more complex than sales and marketing tactics. It really has to come from the inside, and I that's been the most rewarding thing for me to witness, of watching you turn into a boss ass bitch. Like, really. Like, you're there, and with everything that you're doing now, that has been your go-to, and that has been, you know, the biggest message as well for you. So I appreciate you saying that. So why don't we talk about now, what have you achieved? Let's celebrate some wins and celebrate, you know, where you are now. We're talking about this emotional power and authority. How about some business wins now?
Yeah. So business wins. So I'm able to be consistent and show up consistently. You've helped me with my writing. My posts are getting more engagement. You've, you know, coached me on how to talk to people in Messenger. And really helped me to bring together, like, all this knowledge that I've amassed, and help me to custom craft what makes sense for me, which has also been huge for my confidence, because now I can show up and sell in a way that feels really good to me. So I'm not like, mm. And I got a client. You know, yeah. I mean, you know, in the past I've had a blog and a website, and you know, I've been busting my ass doing this. Like, I've got a Facebook business page and a profile right now. I don't have all these extra things, and I didn't need them. And you know, so not only did I get, I think the second person actually did a real sales call, actually signed within 24 hours, and, you know, gave me a good deposit, has been paying early. She's a dream client. She's really fun to work with. And I don't have to go back to limo driving, which I'm really excited about, because that was interesting. Don't get me wrong, there's stories, but yeah, I really need to be able to stay home and rest myself, because I am a cancer survivor. Like, I don't need to be working 14 hours a day. And I'm a caretaker for my dad, and like he's mostly self-sufficient, but it's better for him to have somebody around. So this is just working out on so many different levels. It's this dream I've had, and this knowing that I'm supposed to be helping people, and like I'm like, oh, now this is what this actually feels like, you know.
Mm-hmm. The actualization, it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful to witness that, because I remember, I can fully empathize. I remember what it was like, where you felt like it was so far ahead of you, like as if the dangling carrot was in front of you, and you've been so patient and so persistent. Like, to those of you that are watching and that are thinking of failing, if this person is not a role model for you, I don't know who else will be. Like, if
You
this is not,
do it.
yeah, if this is not a freaking inspiration for you, then I don't know what else will be. It's amazing, and that you broke through, and to actually have the taste of the realization of your dream, that now, whatever happens after, it's new kind of breakthroughs, and then the next, and then the next. But this is probably the most difficult one, and you have prevailed. And I really commend you on that. You have done the work, you're doing it, you are an incredible person and super powerful. One day you will realize that even more. And you're an incredible coach. And I look forward to seeing, what other things you're going to come up with, what other programs, and what kind of transformations you're going to create in other people's lives. And you're making a lot of people proud, including your dad, including myself. I mean, we've been on this journey together in a way, and now it's really cool. And I always like to say this, towards the end of the interviews, like, none of this is hierarchical. Heather actually did a power reclamation session on me, which was freaking incredible, and I got to experience some of her gifts. Like, I don't view myself as any more knowledgeable or powerful. There's just certain things that I know that perhaps she doesn't know, and vice versa. It's been a super dynamic relationship, and it's been an honor. It's been truly an honor to facilitate it. So, are there any, kind of wrap up words that you would like to mention to the viewers? Anything else that you'd like to say before we hop off here?
Yeah. So the reason why, I landed in this niche that I never thought I would be in, is because I realized that there are so many people like me that are actually really talented, and they've really put in the work to be great at what they do. And they're not getting out there. They're not serving the people they're supposed to be serving, because the group programs aren't serving them. These questionable sales tactics, questionable moral, questionable marketing tactics don't feel good to them. And they just, you know, they're despairing of finding a way to actually make this work in a way that they're still going to be able to look themselves in the eye, look at themselves in the mirror and be okay. And there are ways, and the trick is, like, get some one-to-one help. Stop trying to totally reinvent the wheel. Find somebody who's going to support you in crafting the thing that makes sense to you, crafting your own way that feels good to you. Marina has definitely given me that, and it has just been like it literally life changing. So thank you, Marina.
Thank you, Heather. I almost cried a couple of times, especially when you started talking about, I'm a caretaker for my dad. I mean, just sitting here and just knowing that, okay, so I taught you certain things about sales and marketing, creating a custom tailored approach for you, that these kinds of transformations are really life changing, and for me, it's an honor and it's commendable. So to those of you out there who are wondering, like, oh, the market is oversaturated, and I have no hope, it's just whatever. If I hadn't, like, stepped into this, like Heather has told me before, then she would not be where she is. So to those of you that are watching and listening, you never know who needs you. You never know who needs you, you know? So that's, and it's really like, it's like a heartstring jerk right now. And I'm super grateful. I'm super honored. I'm super proud of you. Super
Yeah.
stoked for you. And it's awesome all around. So I'm super grateful to have been able to facilitate this with you.
Well, I'm excited that we're not done. That I'm still doing work with you,
We're still
um,
going.
because the support, just having the accountability and support, and there's always more to learn. And um, yeah, I'm just really really grateful to have you in my life.
I
Yeah.
love you too. I love you as well. Well, thank you all who have joined. If you have any questions about either mine or Heather's work, you can go ahead and PM us. We both are in similar businesses together, but obviously we have different approaches. So you never know whose approach is going to work for you. Heather is in my Sales Wizard program, which is more of an accelerated program focusing specifically on sales, sales mindset, sales around marketing. How do you pre-sell people? How do you sell in live streams? Very sales focused, but it has offer creation and marketing aspects in it too. She was in my booster package as well initially when we first started. I'm like, okay, let's go ahead and accelerate you. We're going to go ahead and move quickly. So I have custom approaches for all of you. Heather has some really cool packages. Would you like to tell people about some of the things that you have available?
So right now, my client is in like a 3-month program.
Mhm.
Um, that is more like a general business, because that's just where I met her. Like, she's somebody like me, a lot of knowledge, a lot of skills, a lot of abilities, no idea what to do with it. So that's what I'm doing with her. But I do want to focus on sales, because I don't see a lot of people just focusing on sales. And that was the biggest hang up for me. And now that I've cracked the code, I know I can help other people crack their own code.
Mhm.
So I'm developing something that's specifically going to be about sales for high integrity people. And I don't have all the answers about that right now, but you can
That's
PM
awesome.
and we'll figure it out.
I love it. Yeah. And that's the part about entrepreneurship too, that I feel like, for those of you right now who are stuck in creating that program, that's one of the biggest things that I stand for. Is creating custom approaches and creating custom programs that are more niched, that are more specific, that are more focused on a specific thing. So for both Heather and I right now, we're developing these sales programs. So right now, Heather is in Sales Wizard, which is a new program of mine. She's developing, more of a short-term sales specific program. So I encourage you, those of you that are watching, to think outside the box. And if you need any help with offer creation, marketing, or sales specifically, you have two amazing people to choose from. You have two amazing people to message, ask questions about how we can help you finally stop spinning your wheels from 10 years of searching and
Don't
grinding.
don't give
Don't
don't take 10 years. Like, don't do it.
do it. Yeah,
Don't do
for
it.
me it was two and it was excruciating enough. So I can't imagine, Heather, what you have gone through.
God.
Oh, there's a lot that suffers. Like she was saying, all of the people she could have helped. Same on my end. There's, like relationship damages, bank account damages for sure. Psychological damages of constantly thinking like, what the hell's wrong with me? For me, it was two. For you, it was 10 years. That's some major self abuse right there. So don't go down that path.
Because one of the things that the career coach told me, literally, she told me after, like, on the second session with her, she said, Heather, you cannot work for big corporations. And I said, I could if I had to. And she said, no, it will eat your soul. And
Mhm.
she was dead serious. Like, she wasn't like, real playful like I am. Like, she wasn't like, ah. And she was like, seriously, it will fucking kill you. Don't do it. And I was like, well, coaching's not working. I guess I'm, gonna make my dad happy and I'm gonna go get an office job. Literally, y'all, literally 2 years later, I had breast cancer. And I
Wow.
don't think the two are completely unrelated. There's a lot of different things I think that could have led to this, but working in an environment I was not aligned with, if you're somebody who really values alignment and you like don't put yourself in fucked up situations, like go follow your heart, go make it happen sooner rather than later.
What a powerful message, and you've spoke about that before of like sabotaging. It's almost like all of these negative things that seemingly happen to us to keep guiding us towards a dream of like, I can definitely relate. For me, I started experiencing like a shit show in my relationship. I broke three cars last year I broke, like just so much chaos of like literally also not following my dream. And Yeah, I mean, these kinds of things happen of continuously steering you in a certain direction where the universe, higher self, whatever kind of belief that you abide to, is going to put things in your way in order to guide you into the right direction of what you're here to do, that you know, that you know, that you know that you're here to do. And we're here to help you. We're both highly ethical women. We're here to help you. So I really appreciate you sharing that. You know, that's pretty profound of getting cancer because you were avoiding your calling. You know, that's pretty profound. So if you are experiencing chaos in your life, if you are experiencing like a shit show after a shit show, and you're still either working a job or right now, especially in the times of economic craziness, like what better reason than now, you know, like than the situation right now, than to start doing what you're meant to do, because the world needs you right now more than ever. The world needs love and support in a highly ethical way, in a highly profound way that only you have. So
Yep.
I really appreciate, this was really powerful, and this has been really powerful, and I'm really excited to see where the next 8 weeks is going to go. So 8 weeks down, another 8 to go, and you're probably gonna be seeing Heather's face more and more. She's gonna be making more sales. She's gonna be rocking and kicking ass, and I'm really excited. So thank you for joining me. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for your kind words. I love you, and we
Love you.
love you, everyone who's watching. Much love. The world needs it right now. Much love and heartfelt love to all of you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.